I'm here today to talk about the MVP myth. And I'll talk about what an MVP is in a second, although I have a feeling that some of you at least are familiar with the term. Another title for this talk is How to Get MVPs Right, or Minimal Viable Products Right. My name is Yuval Karmi, and I'll introduce myself in just a second. So a tiny bit about me, I'm a second-time founder. I started a company in 2016 when I was 26 years old called Simpo, and we ended up selling it in 2021 to WalkMe. And then beginning of last year, I started another company called Glitter AI. I chose the name Glitter because it's fun. There was no other reason for it aside from that. It is a fully bootstrapped company, solo founder. It's just me and a couple of consultants and a bunch of AI agents. I heard someone throw around that term earlier. That's about a bit of it about me. Just real quick about what the company itself does. So Glitter AI takes any screen recording that you have and it generates documentation from it, or a step-by-step guide. So if you want to teach your colleagues or your customers or even your mom how to do anything on the computer, you just do it and you talk in any language, and then you end up with a written doc including screenshots of everything that you have done throughout the process. So it's very easy to transfer knowledge, especially in enterprises. Now, quick disclaimer, Glitter did start out as an MVP, sort of. I actually made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot from a recent talk that I heard by Inon, who was the VP of product for Wiz, who really sorted out a lot of misconceptions I had about what an MVP is, and so today I want to present some of his ideas to you, as well as things that I've learned from in the course of doing two companies. Before jumping into how to ace your MVP or how to do it right, I want to address what is an MVP, what is a minimum viable product. So in really simple words, there's plenty of definitions thrown around for it. It is the simplest, emphasis on simplest, version of your product. The answer is, do people want this? And the this and do people want this can be a variety of different things, and I'll give a couple of examples. By the way, it's going to be a pretty brief talk, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions, and if you guys want me to go through your ideas and help, I'd be really happy to do that. So MVP, simplest version of a product. The answer is, do people really want this? Here's the thing though. There are a bunch of really smart people throwing around a bunch of really smart sounding things that could be quite dangerous. For example, Reid Hoffman, who is the co-founder of LinkedIn, likes to say, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've launched too late. We'll talk about why this is dangerous in a second. Zuck says, move fast and break things, which is also a really fun soundbite, but it could be detrimental if you misunderstand it. So you gotta be careful there, because here's the thing. If you launch too late and you're not embarrassed by what you launched, you've launched too late, can also be misconstrued as, I'm gonna launch a crappy product. And so an MVP does not mean launch something crappy, half-baked, that doesn't really work. Something that maybe has 30 features, but then all of them are half-built. That is not an MVP. That is the definition of how to piss off customers and learn nothing in the process. What an MVP does mean is the simplest thing that actually does work. Let's say something that has 3 features, but these 3 features delight your customers. They love them. And so I want to give you a couple of examples. As I mentioned, it's going to be a very short talk. Let's start with example number 1 of what it looks like to launch something that is maybe crappy, but people tend to think it's an MVP. So let's say that we're trying to answer the question, do customers want to go from point A to point B? Let's say that we're creating an MVP, trying to answer the question, is transportation a thing? Do people want to go from A to B? Okay, let's say that's the question we're trying to answer. What does an MVP look like for that? Well, approach number 1 is we build, we build a car. But it's an MVP, so we really ship a steering wheel. It has a steering wheel. It has the chassis, right, the body of the car. But it doesn't have wheels. Oops. No engine, and unfortunately, as a consequence, it does not move at all. Is this a good MVP? No, of course not. Because all you learn, again, what we're trying to do with MVPs is answer a simple question. Do people want this? In this case, do people want to go from A to B? In the case of shipping a half-broken, crappy car, what we ended up learning is that people don't like half-built, broken things. We didn't answer our questions, do they want to go from A to B? Approach number 2, this should say number 2, not number 1, is a skateboard. It's simple, it works, and it gets you there. Is this a good MVP? It's not a good MVP. Okay, we have someone saying no. Arguably, to answer the question, do people want to go from A to B, it is a decent MVP, it's okay. There's another case where it's actually quite a crappy MVP, and I'll talk about that. You do learn that people want transportation, they want to go from A to B.
Can I ask a question about that?
Questions at the end.
On the end?
Yeah. So is this a good MVP? For this question, yes. And now that you've learned that people do want to go from A to B, now you can iterate. You can go from skateboard to scooter to bicycle to motorcycle and finally to a car. And we actually see this example a lot. If you read online about MVPs, I've ran into this a lot. It is problematic. And I want to talk about how it's problematic, even though it really drives the point home, no pun intended, because that's only if you want to answer that specific question, do people want transportation in general? It does not help if you answer a different question. So if you do answer, you answer people want to go from A to B, fantastic, but what if we ask a different question? What if we ask, we want to build an MVP for a car. We want to ask, do people want a motorized, has a motor, multi-passenger way of getting from A to B? And if we ask that question, let's look again at our skateboard. Our skateboard, simple example from before, it was a fantastic MVP to answer that question, but it is muscle-powered. It fits one single person, unless you try to fit a couple people on it and fail. And it goes very short distances. Is this a good MVP? No. For this example, this is a really bad MVP. Come on. This is a really bad MVP because we're trying to answer a different question. Another approach is a very, very basic flatbed car, right? It is motor-powered. It can only carry 2 people, but it is more than one person, and it has no fancy features whatsoever. It has no AC or sweating in the summer, really hating life, but it gets you from A to B in a motorized multi-person way. Is this a good MVP? In this case, yes. You learn that people want a motorized way to go places together. And as a consequence, that really works. So really what I'm trying to drive home here is the point I'm making is an MVP is only as good as the question that you're asking. If it helps you validate that question in the simplest possible way, then you can start with, in the first case, a skateboard. And in the second case, a flatbed truck. And then maybe you add a passenger cabin and make it eventually into a modern sedan. And so whether an MVP is right or wrong depends on the question that you're trying to answer. Do people want this? Again, the definition of an MVP, the simplest possible thing we can build to answer the question, do people want it? So, in summary about this, and then I'll talk briefly about the mistakes I made with glitter. The right MVP is very simple, minimal features, right? Not 30 features that are half-baked, but 3 features that work really well and delight customers. It tests whether there is demand for what it is that you're building. And then finally, it works. Don't ship things that fail, just ship a very minimal feature set that works really, really well. All of that being said, I'm standing in front of you lecturing you about something that I have actually gotten wrong many times in my career, most recently actually the beginning of this year. I spent a few months building a feature that should have been built in a week, and that is due to personal perfectionism. And so I definitely don't get this right myself all the time. It's a common pitfall. I want to give you the example of glitter, and I'll just start with a statement. Lectures are nice and all, but startups are messy. So you're going to go and build stuff, and then you're going to do it wrong, and that's okay. Just power through it. Continue doing it. You learn from the process. So at Glitter, my admission is I built much more than an MVP when I launched Glitter AI. So as I mentioned, it's software that converts any screen recording into a step-by-step guide. That's wonderful, but here's the thing. I built it for 8 months before launching, before I ever saw a customer. It had dozens of features. It really only needed one. And on launch date, the login page didn't work. I went live on Product Hunt, got a bunch of traffic, and then I started getting, thankfully support worked, right? I started getting requests from support, hey, I'm trying to log in. The login email is not shipping. Hey, I'm trying to log in. This is not working. Hey, it's erroring out. That's what happens when you get ahead of yourself and you're an engineer from a young age and you decide to build a bunch of features, but then you don't really dedicate the time and effort to perfecting them. So don't make the mistake I did. Couple of takeaways from you guys. If you remember anything from this talk, I gave a lot of information here, but just 3 things. Number 1 is ship early, not 8 months into the product. Ship something simple, so only 3 features, not 30 features, but those features should really answer the question, do customers want this thing that I'm building? and then finally ship something that actually works. An MVP does not stand for a crappy product. Ship a product that works, test it with customers, and be delightful. That is all that I have for you. Really short talk. And I'm happy to answer any questions whatsoever that you guys have. Yeah, please. And I know you had a question there as well.
So I find that for some use cases that's a very good methodology. But there are cases that I see that it's very hard to get to the end point of where you actually prove that point. Sometimes I think even surveys is better than actually building. And one example, for example, if we go back, I don't know, 15 years, I don't know, before we had the tablets. Tablets is a product that actually is kind of, it's not solving a problem, like improving the online experience of mobile phones, while not being cumbersome as a laptop or expensive as a laptop. It's kind of a middle ground product.
Sure.
And it's very hard to, like, I'm trying to imagine if they wanted to build an MVP. It's very hard to build something like that. It's hardware. It's very expensive to get, even to, and it only has one basic feature that improved. It's the size of the screen. But you can imagine how people needed that, and people always read it, you know.
So what is your question?
How do you build an MVP? Let's say I had an idea to build the first tablet.
Sure.
How do I MVP something like
So
that?
I will caveat something. So you bring up a really important point. In hardware, it's much harder to build an MVP. You can still do it, but the cycles are much longer, right? You have to develop printed circuit boards, right? You have to do physical QA on things. There's a cycle to it, etc. But I will say this. iPad version 1 is not identical to iPad version whatever the heck we're on today, right? They've iterated on that and built upon that. So in hardware, it's much harder. It takes longer. The cycles are longer. You don't ship in a week. But you can still ship a minimal feature set and then expand on that from there. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Kobe, you wanted to ask?
Actually, I already answered
Okay.
the question.
Cool.
What happens if customer that you're aiming to is not one that's going to go on the skateboard?
Is not one who's gonna what?
It's not going to use a skateboard, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. You want to plan a vehicle for elderly people.
Yeah, that's not
your
your MVP in that case. No way.
Exactly.
Skateboard is like a
And then
failure of
there's
an MVP. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
A question about glitter.
Yeah, sure.
So how do we interact with it? I mean, do we do the actions, and is it continuously taking screenshots? How is it? Do we talk with it?
Sure. So glitter, it could be either you upload an existing video that you have. By the way, now that feature that I worked on for a few months before launching recently, the non-MVP that should have been an MVP as well, is something that takes a video, any video. It could be a real-life video of someone showing how to use a machine and converts that into a step-by-step guide with Gemini as a large language model. But at a base level, here's how glitter works. You just start it. It's a software on your computer that you install either as a Chrome extension or as a desktop app. And then you carry out the process and you talk out loud. Whatever you say, it gets transcribed and cleaned up. And every click that you make becomes a screenshot. So you can, let's say you want to demonstrate the process of creating a lead in a CRM, right? In a customer relationship management platform. Great, you just do it. And you say, here's how you create a lead in a CRM. First you click here, and then you click, and then you type in the person's name, whatever. You literally go through the instructions as if a person is next to you and you're teaching them. The output of that, through the magic of AI, is text that accompanies screenshots, where each screenshot is every click that you made. And if you type something along the way, it also will type it for you. We'll show type this here. And then you can edit after the fact, like a Google Doc.
So the input is video.
Yeah, please.
I have a question not directly related to the deck and presentation, but like about glitter and your choices.
Sure.
You mentioned that you were a founder before,
Sure.
I assume with co-founders.
Correct.
And now you're a solo entrepreneur.
Correct.
A bit about the rationale, why you're doing it, pros and cons, like.
Yeah. Is it okay if I start with a simple statement?
Sure.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's much more fun to work in a team. Unfortunately, I was in a situation where my co-founder, who was an amazing person, we were not a fit in terms of co-founders. So I knew how to build, and so I started out building, and he was an amazing, and to this day, an amazing customer success guy. He's a VP and ops guy. But a really small startup doesn't require heavy operations or a heavy customer success team. And so we had a mismatch that caused a lot of friction. And so it wasn't a good experience, and as a consequence, I got burnt. It was traumatic, and I was like, I'm never doing this with someone again. So sometimes it's better to have a beer with someone after the fact and resolve your issues, and then start another startup with another person, which we've done, and I may add someone to Glitter down the line. Yeah, please.
So you can tell us how your day looks like if you are a tech guy and then you are coding, and after that you are doing marketing, and then.
Yeah, it's hard. So it depends on who you are as a person, but for me, context switching is very hard. And I've been coding since I was 8 years old, and so I end up getting pulled into a lot of coding tasks. And so Glitter more than pays my rent. It has, as of yesterday, 103 paying customers and like 8,000 free users, right? So the product is live. It's used by thousands of companies. But I think it would have been much more successful had I dedicated more time to marketing, for example, and I just end up getting pulled into coding because I love it and building features. It's also the reason that the MVP was not an MVP. It ended up being quite bloated because I'm like, I'll just build this. I'll just do that because it's much easier for me than going out and engaging with the market. In terms of what my actual day looks like, I try to lean into my strengths. So when I'm not building features, I try to build marketing as code. If you guys have ever heard that term, I know your next section afterwards is going to be about marketing, and you have some great speakers, some of which I know personally, and they'll talk to you more about that stuff. But there are ways of actually semi-automating your marketing efforts as well. So I try to lean into that and do it that way. But the short answer to your question is it's just hard. Hence the get a co-founder.
You can tell us which tools you are using?
The normal ones. I use Claude, specifically Claude Code for the most part. Google recently released a suite of tools, like for example, that create the marketing graphics for you and stuff like that. I posted about it on LinkedIn. I can't even remember the name off the top of my head, but it's on my profile. What is it?
Pomeli.
Pomeli?
Pomeli.
Oh, Pomeli. Yeah, that's right. So they released that tool. It works okay. I haven't actually put money behind ads that it generated. So, yeah, does that answer the question? Any more questions? If not, then I'm happy to. If any of you have specific projects or you want to come up to me when it's not in front of everybody, it can sometimes be not fun, then I'm happy to run through anything with you. Thank you so much.